The galaxy had grown quiet. For 3,000 years, the great powers had settled into comfortable peace. The Stellar Council, comprised of 12 ancient civilizations, governed trade routes and settled minor disputes through diplomacy. War had become a distant memory, spoken of only in history classes. The council members were proud of their achievement. The blue-skinned Altarians controlled the northern spiral arm with their merchant fleets. The crystalline Vega Collective managed energy distribution across star systems. The plant-like dendrons terraformed dead worlds into garden paradises. Each species had found their niche, their purpose, their place in the grand design. Humanity was barely worth mentioning in their records. The humans had appeared on the galactic stage only 800 years ago, stumbling out of their single solar system with crude fusion drives and primitive computers. They were granted a small cluster of 23 star systems on the outer rim-worthless rocks that nobody else wanted. The Council viewed them as useful laborers and curious traders, nothing more. Captain Rex Morgan of the human trading vessel Pathfinder docked at Altair Prime Station, the same routine he had followed for 15 years. The blue-skinned station master barely glanced at his cargo manifest. "Rare earth metals from the Titan mines," Rex said, sliding the data pad across. "The counter. And some of those gravity crystals you folks like." The Altarian nodded absently. "Dock 7. Standard processing fee applies." Rex watched the alien's dismissive attitude with quiet amusement. If only they knew what humanity was really shipping through these trade routes. Hidden beneath legitimate cargo holds, human vessels carried something far more valuable than minerals: information. Every jump coordinate, every defense grid layout, every military installation, every population center. For 8 centuries, humanity had been mapping the galaxy with the patience of archaeologists and the precision of Generals Dot back on Earth. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before a holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Thousands of red dots marked strategic locations, shipyards, command centers, supply depots. Her weathered face bore the calm expression of someone who had spent decades preparing for a single moment. "Status report," she commanded. "All networks are in place," replied Colonel Jim Foster, his fingers dancing across a control panel. "Our sleeper agents have confirmed positions in every major system. The mining operations on Pluto finished their real work 6 months ago." Sullivan nodded. Pluto hadn't been a mining operation for 200 years. Officially, it produced rare metals for trade. Unofficially, it housed the most advanced weapons research facility in human space. What they had built there would have sent the Stellar Council into immediate panic. The truth was simple. Humanity had never stopped being human. While other species evolved beyond their warrior instincts, humans had merely learned to hide theirs. Better, every human child still learned about the ancient wars, World War III, the colonial rebellions, the AI crisis. These weren't dusty history lessons. They were tactical studies. Dr. Alan Price emerged from the deep laboratories beneath Luna City, his face pale from months of underground work. In his hands, he carried a small device no larger than a coin. "The neural disruptors are ready," he announced to the gathered generals. "Each unit can disable an entire city's population without permanent harm. You have enough for every major world in the galaxy." "And the primary weapon?" Sullivan asked. Price's smile was thin. "Mars is no longer a planet, Admiral. It's the largest kinetic weapon ever constructed. The entire core has been replaced with our most advanced propulsion system. When activated, Mars becomes a guided projectile capable of cracking any world in half." The room fell silent. Even hardened military officers felt the weight of what they had accomplished. While the galaxy celebrated peace, humanity had turned an entire planet into a weapon. But this was only the beginning. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, hidden construction facilities worked around the clock. Asteroid bases that appeared to be simple mining operations were actually massive weapons platforms. The asteroid belt itself had been secretly restructured into a defensive network of unimaginable power. Lieutenant Ben Harris monitored communications from the outer rim. His console showed peaceful trade chatter, diplomatic messages, and routine shipping schedules. But embedded within these innocent transmissions was something else entirely. Activation codes. With a single command from Earth, every human facility in the galaxy would reveal its true purpose. Trade ships would transform into attack vessels. Mining stations would become weapons platforms. And Mars Beautiful, Red Mars, would begin its journey toward whatever target humanity chose. The galaxy slept peacefully, trusting in the wisdom of the Stellar Council and the strength of ancient treaties. They had no idea that humanity had spent 8 centuries preparing for war. Asterisk. The message arrived on a Tuesday. Captain Lisa Johnson of the exploration vessel Discovery had been charting empty systems beyond the galactic rim when her communications array detected something impossible. A signal from outside the galaxy. The transmission was brief, mathematical, and unmistakably artificial. Within hours, every major civilization in the galaxy had received copies. The Stellar Council convened an emergency session on Centauri 7. Their gleaming capital world. Ambassador Tom Wilson sat in the human delegation's modest corner of the vast council chamber. Around him, the galaxy's greatest minds debated the meaning of the alien message. The Altarians believed it was a greeting from a distant civilization. The Vega Collective thought it might be a scientific exchange. Only humans recognized it for what it truly was, a military reconnaissance probe. Translation came 3 days later. The message was simple, terrifying, and absolute. Catalog complete. Harvest begins in 10 cycles. Resistance is futile. Panic spread through the council chambers like wildfire. The dendron's leaves rustled with fear. The crystalline Vega representatives flickered between colors of distress. For 3 millennia, these civilizations had known only peace. They had dismantled their weapons, converted their warships into cargo vessels, and forgotten the harsh lessons of survival. The debates that followed revealed the galaxy's true weakness. The Altarians suggested hiding in deep space. The Vega Collective proposed attempting diplomatic contact. The insectoid hive queens recommended scattering across multiple dimensions. Every solution involved running, hiding, or surrendering. Ambassador Wilson listened to the chaos with growing frustration. Finally, he stood up in the small human section, his voice cutting through the alien chatter. "We fight." The chamber fell. Silent. 12 species turned to stare at the human representative with expressions ranging from confusion to pity. High Counselor Zeth of the Altarians spoke first. "Human Wilson, your species is admirable in its courage, but you control only 23 systems. The approaching force has consumed entire galaxies. What could humanity possibly contribute to such a conflict?" Wilson smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Everything. Back on Earth, Admiral Sullivan received the activation order she had waited her entire life to hear. The command went out simultaneously to every human facility in the galaxy. Operation Prometheus is now active. The transformation began immediately. On Kepler Station, a routine trading post suddenly sprouted massive weapon turrets from hidden compartments. The station's human administrator, Jack Stevens, watched alien traders flee in confusion as his facility revealed its true nature, a fortress capable of defending an entire system. In the Alpha Centauri system, mining ships shed their industrial disguises. Concealed armor plating deployed, weapon systems came online, and what had appeared to be civilian vessels became a battle fleet. Captain Mike Davis broadcast on all frequencies. "All civilian vessels, please evacuate the system. We're about to become very unfriendly." The asteroid belt became a maze of weapon platforms and defensive stations. Jupiter's moons revealed themselves as massive shipyards, launching vessels that had been under construction for decades. Saturn's rings weren't rings at all. They were orbital, defense networks disguised as natural phenomena. But the greatest surprise was Mars. The red planet shuddered as ancient engines buried deep in its core came online. Massive thruster arrays, camouflaged as natural rock formations, began their startup sequence. The entire planet started to move, slowly at first, then with increasing speed as it broke free from its traditional orbit. Dr. Price monitored the transformation from his command center on Luna. Mars is responding perfectly, he reported. We'll have full mobility in 72 hours. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed the truth of their 8th century preparation. Trade routes became supply lines. Mining operations became weapons factories. Every human presence in the galaxy transformed from peaceful commerce to military might. The Stellar Council demanded explanations. Ambassador Wilson provided them with brutal honesty. While you celebrated peace, we remembered war, he told the assembled aliens. While you dismantled your defenses, we built the greatest weapon the galaxy has ever seen. While you trusted in diplomacy, we prepared for the day when words would not be enough. The council chamber erupted in outrage. Accusations of deception and betrayal filled the air. The Altarians threatened to cut all trade ties. The Vega Collective spoke of violations of trust. Wilson let them vent their anger before speaking again. The enemy will arrive in 10 cycles, he said quietly. We can face them together, or you can face them alone. But understand this, humanity has spent 800 years preparing for this moment. We are ready for war. The question is, are you ready to be saved? The galaxy had awakened to find that its most underestimated species had become its greatest. Hope for survival. The real question was whether it was enough. The first enemy scouts arrived exactly when predicted. Long-range sensors detected them at the galactic edge, dark, angular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect. They moved with purpose, scanning systems and cataloging defenses with mechanical precision. Commander Sarah Mitchell of the Human Deep Space Monitoring Station, Outpost 7, watched the enemy vessels through her screens with professional interest. Unlike the panicking aliens across the galaxy, humans had been expecting this moment. 6 scout ships, Admiral, she reported to Earth via quantum communication. Configuration unknown, but their movement patterns suggest advanced AI control. They're mapping our outer defenses. Admiral Sullivan studied the tactical displays from her command center buried beneath the Rocky Mountains. Let them look, she ordered. Make sure they see exactly what we want them to see. The deception began immediately. Human vessels retreated from the outer systems, apparently in panic. Weapon platforms powered down, appearing to be nothing more than abandoned mining equipment. The carefully constructed illusion showed a galaxy caught off guard, with only scattered resistance points and no coordinated defense. The enemy scouts recorded everything before vanishing back into deep space. 3 weeks later, the real invasion began. The enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. Thousands of vessels, each one larger than anything the galaxy had ever built. Their ships were organic in design, grown rather than constructed, with surfaces that writhed and pulsed as if alive. Dr. Ellen Hayes, humanity's leading xenobiologist, analyzed the incoming data from her laboratory on Europa. They're not ships in any traditional sense, she reported to the War Council. These are creatures, bioengineered organisms designed for one purpose: consumption. They literally eat planets. The first target was the outer rim world of Haven Colony, a peaceful farming community populated by the plant-like dendrons. The creatures descended upon the planet like hungry predators, their organic hulls opening to release swarms of smaller organisms that began devouring everything in sight: soil, plants, buildings, and people. The Dendron defense fleet was pathetic. By military standards, converted agricultural vessels with improvised weapons. They lasted exactly 14 minutes as Haven Colony died. Its final transmissions reached the rest of the galaxy. The screams of the dying were broadcast on every frequency, ensuring that every civilization understood the true nature of their enemy. The alien races of the Stellar Council finally began to grasp the horror they faced. These weren't conquerors, seeking territory or resources. They were harvesters, treating entire worlds like crops to be consumed. Ambassador Wilson addressed the emergency council session with grim satisfaction. "Now you understand," he said. "This isn't a war in any sense you comprehend. This is an extermination. They don't want to rule you, enslave you, or negotiate with you. They want to eat you." The revelation shattered the last pretenses of galactic diplomacy. The Altarian High Command began desperately retrofitting cargo ships with weapons. The Vega Collective started evacuating their crystal cities. The Hive Queens recalled their scattered broods to defend the homeworld. But humanity was all ready. Moving. Mars had reached optimal position, its planetary engines maintaining a careful orbit just outside the solar system. The massive world now bristled with weapon systems that had been hidden beneath its surface for centuries. Captain Roy Foster, Mars's commanding officer, monitored his planet weapon from a command center built into Olympus Mons. "Enemy main fleet is maintaining formation," he reported. "Approximately 40,000 vessels arranged in a harvesting pattern. They're treating this like a routine feeding operation." Admiral Sullivan smiled coldly. "Then let's give them indigestion." The trap was sprung with mathematical precision. Human vessels that had appeared to retreat suddenly reversed course, revealing their true capabilities. The mining ship, Hercules, shed its industrial disguise and opened fire with weapons that could crack moons. The research station at Proxima Centauri deployed defensive shields that could withstand stellar bombardment. But the greatest surprise was the asteroid belt itself. What the enemy had cataloged as a standard debris field suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Thousands of asteroids revealed themselves as camouflaged battle stations, creating a crossfire pattern that trapped the enemy's advanced ships in a killing field. The harvest creatures, programmed for feeding on defenseless worlds, had never encountered organized military resistance. Their organic minds, designed for consumption rather than strategy, struggled to adapt to humanity's coordinated assault. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Parker commanded the asteroid fortress designated Rock 7. His guns fired continuously as enemy creatures tried to swarm his position. "They're not really fighting," he observed with professional detachment. "They're just trying to get close enough to eat us." No tactical thinking at all. The realization spread through the human battle network. Their enemy was powerful but predictable. The harvest creatures were apex predators that had never faced organized prey. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity allowed itself a moment of hope. Asterisk, the success of humanity's first counterattack sent shockwaves through both the enemy fleet and the galactic community. For the first time in their existence, the harvest creatures had encountered prey that fought back effectively. Their organic minds, evolved for consumption rather than warfare, struggled to process this new reality. Ambassador Wilson stood before the Stellar Council with a new sense of authority. The human delegation was no longer tucked away in a corner. They now occupied center stage as the galaxy's military leaders. "The enemy can be hurt," Wilson announced to the assembled representatives. "They can be stopped, but only if we work together, and only if you're willing to learn how to wage war." The transformation of galactic civilization began immediately. The Altarians, master traders who had controlled merchant fleets for millennia, proved surprisingly adaptable. Commander Elena Rodriguez, on loan from the human military, worked with Captain Vex of the Altarian 7th Fleet to retrofit cargo vessels into effective warships. "Your ships are already fast and maneuverable," Rodriguez explained as they reviewed blueprints. "We just need to add armor plating here, weapon mounts there, and upgrade your power systems. Think of it as aggressive trading." The blue-skinned captain's eyes brightened with understanding. The Altarians had always been competitive in business. Now they channeled that drive into combat. Within weeks, their merchant fleet had become a rapid strike force capable of hit-and-run attacks against enemy formations. The Vega Collective contributed their mastery of energy systems. Their crystal cities became massive weapon platforms, focusing stellar energy into beams that could slice through enemy vessels at incredible range. Dr. James Murphy worked alongside collective engineers to create new targeting systems. Your energy manipulation is beyond anything we've developed, Murphy admitted as they watched a test firing. Combined with human tactical doctrine, you could create bombardment platforms that control entire star systems. Even the peaceful Dendrons found their role in the war effort. Their ability to rapidly grow organic structures made them invaluable for creating defensive positions. Human military engineers like Colonel Janet Hayes worked with Dendron cultivation masters to design living fortifications. These root networks can detect enemy movement through subspace, Hayes explained as she walked through a biofortress that resembled a massive tree. The branches serve as both weapon platforms and shield generators. You've essentially grown us an entire defensive system. The harvest creatures adapted faster than anyone expected. Their organic nature allowed them to literally evolve new tactics within single-generation cycles. Enemy ships began displaying new behaviors, pack hunting, coordinated swarm attacks, and most disturbing of all, learning. Captain David Wright of the human battleship Defiance encountered this evolution firsthand during the Battle of Rigel 7. His ship faced what appeared to be a standard harvest vessel, but the creatures' attack patterns showed clear adaptation to human tactics. "It's learning from our previous engagements," Wright reported as his weapons officer, Lieutenant Karen Stone, adjusted targeting parameters. "This thing knows how we fight." The enemy vessel demonstrated this knowledge by anticipating human maneuvers and avoiding the trap patterns that had worked in earlier battles. Only Wright's tactical creativity, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot behind the creature, allowed Defiance to achieve victory. Admiral Sullivan realized the implications immediately. They're sharing information across their entire species, she told the War Council. Every battle teaches them more about how we fight. We need to end this quickly before they become unbeatable. The solution came from an unexpected source. The insectoid hive queens. Queen Zara of the northern hives had remained silent throughout most council meetings, but she finally spoke with the collective wisdom of her species. The harvest creatures share a group mind, yes, but this is also weakness. Strike the mind, and the body cannot function. Dr. Price had been studying captured enemy bioships for weeks, and the Queen's observation provided the missing piece of his research. "She's right," he announced excitedly. "There's a central intelligence coordinating their entire species. If we can locate and destroy it, the entire invasion fleet becomes nothing more than mindless beasts." The search began immediately. Human, long-range sensors, enhanced with alien technology, swept the galaxy looking for the source of enemy communications. The Vega Collective's energy detection systems identified unusual subspace patterns. Altarian scouts used their speed to investigate potential targets. Finally, deep in the galactic core, they found it, a structure larger than most star systems, built from the remains of consumed worlds. The harvest core, the living computer that controlled the entire species. "It's beautiful in a terrifying way," reported Captain Lisa Anderson of the scout ship Discovery as she transmitted images back to Earth. Like a mechanical brain the size of a solar system, pulsing with the thoughts of 1 billion creatures. Admiral Sullivan studied the tactical data with grim satisfaction. "Then we know our target. Prepare Mars for its final mission." The planet weapon began its journey toward the galactic core, humanity's ultimate gamble, racing against time and evolution itself. Mars had become something beyond human imagination. The red planet now pulsed with energy conduits that ran through its entire structure, transforming it from a world into the largest guided missile ever created. Captain Foster stood in his command center, watching readings that showed a planet's worth of destructive potential under his control. "Approaching optimal firing position," reported Navigation Officer Lieutenant Beth Collins. "The Harvest Core is now within range of our primary weapon systems." The journey to the galactic core had taken months, with Mars moving through space. Like a purposeful moon, behind it trailed the combined fleets of the galaxy, every species that had learned to fight, united under human tactical command. Admiral Sullivan coordinated the final assault from her mobile command ship, the Prometheus. Around her, the greatest military force in galactic history prepared for what everyone knew would be the decisive battle. "Status report from all fronts," she ordered. The responses came from across the galaxy. "Altarian fast attack groups report all outer system. Harassment complete. Enemy reinforcements cut off." Captain Martinez of the Human Liaison Corps transmitted from an Altarian command ship. "Vega energy platforms fully charged and locked onto secondary targets. Crystal cities ready to provide covering fire. Doctor." Murphy's voice carried the satisfaction of someone whose hybrid technology was performing perfectly. "Dendron biofortresses have sealed off 17 major space lanes. Enemy retreat routes blocked." Colonel Hayes reported from a living fortress that stretched across an entire asteroid field. But the most important report came from the advanced scouts. "The core is bigger than we thought," transmitted Captain Anderson from the Discovery. "It's not just controlling the Harvest fleet, it's actively rebuilding itself using consumed matter from dead worlds. If we don't stop it now, it will become too large to destroy." The Harvest Core had grown into a nightmare of organic technology and consumed civilizations. Billions of enemy creatures swarmed around it in protective formations. But more disturbing were the new variants appearing creatures that showed clear adaptation to every tactic the galaxy had used against them. Lieutenant Stone, now serving as Admiral Sullivan's tactical officer, studied the enemy formations with professional concern. "They've learned everything, Admiral. Every strategy, every weapon system, every coordination pattern. The creatures guarding the core are specifically designed to counter our combined tactics." Sullivan nodded grimly. "Then we don't use tactics they've seen before." The plan was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its scope. Mars would not attempt to fight through the enemy defenses. It would become a kinetic weapon aimed directly at the core itself. Every other ship in the galaxy would serve as a distraction, drawing enemy attention away from the planet missile until it was too late to stop. "All units, this is Admiral Sullivan," she broadcast on all frequencies. "Begin Operation Checkmate." The galaxy's combined fleets struck with everything they had learned about warfare. Altarian ships darted between enemy formations, their crews whooping with the joy of combat they had never known they possessed. Vega platforms fired energy beams that split space itself, their crystalline crews working with mechanical precision. Dendron bioships grew weapons in real time, adapting to battle conditions with living flexibility. The human forces fought with the calculated fury of a species that had never forgotten how to wage war. Destroyer squadrons, led by Captain Wright, punched through enemy lines. Battle stations commanded by Colonel Parker created crossfire patterns that channeled enemy movement. Every human vessel, every weapon system, every tactical innovation of the 8 centuries came together in one desperate gamble. The harvest creatures responded with their own evolution. New variants appeared that specifically countered each galactic species. Bioships that could drain Vega energy weapons. Swarm creatures that could overwhelm Altarian speed. Acidic organisms that dissolved Dendron bio-armor, but they couldn't. Counter Mars. The planet weapon accelerated past the speed of light, its massive engines burning with the power of a captured star. The core's defensive creatures finally detected the threat, but it was too late. A planet moving at relativistic speed cannot be stopped by conventional weapons. Captain Foster watched his final readings with calm satisfaction. Impact in 30 seconds, he announced to his crew. It's been an honor serving with you all. Mars struck the harvest core with the force of a collapsing star. The explosion was visible from across the galaxy. A new star being born from the death of humanity's greatest weapon and the enemy's central intelligence. As the core died, its death scream echoed through subspace, reaching every harvest creature in the galaxy. Without their guiding intelligence, the organic ships stopped functioning as a coordinated force. They reverted to their base programming symbol, predators without strategy or coordination. The galaxy's combined fleets, now experiencing warfare, made short work of the scattered enemy. 3 months later, Ambassador Wilson addressed a very different stellar council. The galaxy had learned to fight, and in doing so, had discovered something they had forgotten in 3 millennia of peace: the strength that comes from unity in the face of extinction. The galaxy slept, Wilson concluded his report, but it woke up ready to fight.